Alright, so we're going to finish up my basic training. Now, I never did talk about the recruiting process and when I got recruited, when I was a recruit, you know, in the delayed entry program in high school. I never talked about that, but I did meet my drill sergeant, or my recruiter later. I think his name was Sergeant Halsey. Sergeant Halsey was my recruiter. I met him later when I was an Army recruiter, and I'll talk about that a little later when I get there. But I actually met Sergeant Halsey again when I was an Army recruiter. That was my Army recruiter, and I met him when I was a recruiter. Something odd about that. I don't know, there's something, it's kind of like karma, isn't it? But I'll talk about that later when I get to it. Anyway, so I told you I had to go to another basic training unit to finish up my marksmanship. And when I went there, I did 40 out of 40, one shot, one kill. And I met a few interesting drill sergeants there. Drill Sergeant, I think there was another guy named Drill Sergeant Halsey, or was it Drill Sergeant Harley, or something like that. But he was a big black guy. He was about 5'5" tall and about 4.5 feet wide. He was a big son of a buck. But a really nice guy. Then there was Drill Sergeant Pace, who I never really knew. I never really got to know him. He was another, someone else, the other platoon's drill sergeant. Somebody got drunk the night before graduation. The privates were allowed to go out and drink and all of that. One of them came back drunk and took a swing at him. Got put out of the Army the night before basic training graduation. That's always fun. I don't know what Drill Sergeant Pace did, or if it was just the guy just didn't like him. Then there was Senior Drill Sergeant Fisher, who was a big black guy, about 6'5", and he was a pretty cool guy. Then there was this little drill sergeant. He was about 5 foot even, and he had elevated boots. His soles were like this tall. I mean, he stood about 5'7", and the soles of his boots were 7 inches, so he was only like 5 foot. And we used to laugh at him. I was like, this mother got Kiss boots on him. I mean, they literally look like the boots Paul Stanley wore in Kiss or Gene Simmons or any of those guys. I'm not kidding. His soles of his boots were, I never seen anything like it. It was weird. But he was a little midget, and I guess he wanted to look taller. It didn't really help. But then the two drill sergeants I remember most in my second basic training unit that I had to go to finish up. You notice I knew all of the drill sergeants from the first one. But when I went to this new unit, I didn't really get to know them that well. But there was Drill Sergeant Strickland, who talked like this. He talked like he was sucking helium, man. He used to lock his kids up and say, parade, hurry! And he said he used to lock his kids up at parade rest when they were bad. So that was pretty weird. He worked at Fort Leavenworth as a prison guard and used to... he said they used to wet the people down if they were bad. You know, you had to go in solitary confinement. They would wet you down and put you in a cell that had a window with bars but no glass or anything. So the northeasterly wind would blow into the cell and you're in there soaking wet. He said that would calm them down immensely. So there's people coming, so I'm going to be moving here in a minute. Then, of course, there was Drill Sergeant Katie. Fucking asshole. I found a place to sit down. Look at what I found right here in the playground. It's a new gun for my videos right now. It's a squirt gun. It's a squirt gun. Put the water in right there. Finders keepers. So we started firing and everything, and the guy that got my foxhole couldn't hit a lot of targets. And I didn't want to fail the guy, but I didn't want to get in trouble either by putting that he hit a target that he didn't. I was one of those, I'm so honest I get paranoid if I'm lying. I'm like, oh my God, man, what if I put that he hit it and he really missed it, and they come to me and they go, you lied, or something like that. So I was putting if he hit it or if he missed it, and he ended up, getting under the minimum. So Drill Sergeant Katie brings his raggedy ass over and leans on top of my head, puts his elbow right here and leans on top of my helmet, and he's pushing down, and I'm thinking, what the So I moved my head. I went, and he almost fell over. And he looks at me and goes, "What do you think you're doing?" I go, "I'm doing my job. I'm doing what the United States Army has paid me to do." I go, "And don't you ever put your freaking elbow on my head again." He was like, "Who you talking to, Private?" I go, "I'm talking to you. Don't ever put your arm on my head again." I go, "If you don't like what I'm doing, put me out. You're the drill sergeant." And he walked away, and he never challenged me again, ever. But he did treat me like shit for the rest of the time I was there. He hated me. He treated me like I was a friggin' loser. In fact, people would come up to me and go, "Yeah, Drill Sergeant Cady, he doesn't have a lot of faith in you." He said, "That private right there ain't gonna make it." Guess what? I did make it, and I was in the Army for a long time. I got a few stories to tell you guys. But he pissed me off. I had another drill sergeant that came up one night. Well, he was coming out of a tent. I was going into the command tent, and he was coming out. And he put the brim of his brown round right against my forehead. And he's doing this and looking at me, and I went, boom! And I headbutted his brown round. And he looks at me, I go, "Oh, sorry, drill sergeant." I go, I thought you were moving. He goes, "Don't you ever do that again, Private." And he walked off. I thought, yeah, do it again, son of a bitch. So yeah, I got a little bold, there towards the end of basic training. You just get tired of the crap, But Drill Sergeant Cady, man, me and him, we went at it a few times. Like I said, he never really challenged me again, like with the arm thing or anything like that. But he used to make me do stuff just to prove to me that I was a piece of shit. I didn't care. I was like, you know what? When I graduate and I get on that airplane to leave here, he can kiss my white ass. So, close to the end of basic training, they had a weekend pass. And all these guys got to go down to the PX, and then they got an overnight pass and everything. And Drill Sergeant Cady had told me and this other guy named Miller, Private Miller out of Chicago. I still have his address in my, we got kind of like a yearbook, basic training yearbook. And he wrote his mailing address stuff in there, said, "Hey man, keep in touch, dude." I never did. I should have. Miller was cool. Maybe I should write him a Christmas card and say, "Dude, remember me from 30 years ago?" Well, it wasn't that long ago, but it was about 20-something years ago. But, it was like, me and Miller kind of became real good friends because Miller got treated the same way by Drill Sergeant Cady that I did. Me and Miller got treated the same way. He treated both of us like shit. So we kind of paired up, and then it kind of ended up that way. So he told me and Miller that you guys don't get a weekend pass. You're staying in. You're going to clean the barracks. And the senior drill said, "No, Drill Sergeant Cady, everybody gets a pass. Why do they get Article 15 or something?" He goes, "Well, no." He goes, "Everybody gets a pass." So he goes, "Fine, okay." Because he said everybody gets to go to the PX. Nobody gets punished. So Drill Sergeant Cady was fucking pissed about that. So he goes, "Fine." He comes to me and Miller. He goes, "You guys got 4 hours, 4-hour pass." He goes, "It's now 10 a.m. in the morning, and I want you back here by 1400 hours, which is 2 p.m. So we're like, "Oh fuck, man." So we went to the PX and hung out, had lunch. We bought some goodies and some snacks and stuff, and we walked there and we walked back to the barracks. We got back to the barracks and he had these little brushes for us, little wire brush. He said, "You guys are going to be cleaning my steps." And we had to clean every step in the barracks on the stairs. And then the overnight pass, everybody got to go out and and go to hotels and party, and we had to paint the steps, which was a lot of fun. So I'm running out of time here. I got this light flashing that says I've got less than 5 minutes on my camera. Well, there's some people coming anyway, so I need to finish up. AIT, Advanced Individual Training. There's nothing really to talk about there. It was 12 weeks of learning my job, which was multi-channel communications, or what was later called, line of sight tropospheric satellite communication, something like that. And so basically they kept upgrading the phone systems or the radio. It went from a radio communication to kind of a phone system, and I operated the radio that they talked on a phone over our frequency, kind of like AT&T, and we work the towers, if you will. And I'm just trying to keep it short, but it got so high tech there at the end of my career. It was really fascinating. But the advanced individual training was 12 weeks of school, learning communications. There's nothing really exciting happened there that I can remember. Not a damn thing, except our first sergeant. We had this first sergeant there that was really an asshole, and he used to have these beer parties. If you gave $3, you could drink all the beer. He'd go out and buy a bunch of kegs and stuff, and you could drink all this beer on the weekends. And I never did it because he was an asshole, and I didn't want to buy his beer. Okay, let me tell you why. Because he used to drink more beer than the people who were paying for the beer. He used to drink half of it up, and he'd be standing there looking at you like, he'd be like, "Hey, Bri, I got a beer for you, Bri beer." And he couldn't even talk to you. And one night he passed out, and these sergeants grabbed him and drug him into the day room and laid him on the couch. Which they should have done. That's what you do. You look out for your top sergeant. But the fact that he passed out in front of all those privates was pitiful. Just friggin' pitiful. Just pitiful. It's just pitiful. And then I later learned, now this is rumor control. I don't know that this happened. It's just a rumor, kind of like a National Enquirer thing. But I later learned that he went drunk into one of the females' rooms, and she cried sexual harassment, and he got relieved of duty. That was a rumor. Somebody told me that when I was in Germany. They said, "Hey, you remember First Sergeant?" I go, "Yeah." They go, "He got relieved of duty." I go, "What do you mean? Sexual harassment?" And I go, "Oh, get out of here." "Yeah, really?" And they told me the story. But I don't know if that happened, but I believe it because he was a drunk. So I went to Germany. That's where we're going next week, guys. Frankfurt, Germany, and actually a town called Höchst. And, do I have some stories about that, and some stories I'm not going to tell you because people watch my videos. Certain people. So there's stories I'm not going to tell you. Sorry. And there are stories I'm going to tell you. Yeah, I'm going to tell you how I went drinking and swam across a river. I'm going to tell you how I went swimming naked in a swimming pool, a public pool, kind of like the YMCA there in Germany. So tune in next week, or the week after, and you'll hear some of those stories.